of the two-state solution as a basis for reaching a peaceful settlement.
You mean the PNC resolutions of 1988?
1988. And that meant actually recognizing the right of Israel to exist. So far, Israel has not responded, has not reciprocated by recognizing our right to self-determination. And so peace is not there. Israel wants peace on its own terms, and that's no peace. That is an imposed peace.
But again, there is also a fear that, you see, I think that in the eyes of the Israelis, the PLO is either, or the Palestinians in general, are either villains or liars. If they don't accept the 242 resolution of the Security Council, then they are villains. If they accept it, they are liars. They don't mean it, you see? And so we are again in the vicious circle. Now, in practical terms, it means that if the Palestinians are against a two-state solution, if they're speaking about Palestine Arabiya, Arab Palestine, it means they want to eliminate us. If they're speaking about democratic Palestine, in which Jews, Christians, and Muslims will live together, it means they don't want the state of Israel as such in any borders whatsoever. Against, they want to eliminate us. If they are for a two-state solution, they are hiding their intentions. So where are we going to be then, you see?
Well, let me explain here, really. I say, really, you don't have to doubt our sincere commitment to peace. There is evidence there. And on the eve of Madrid, when we accepted to be party to the peace process, there were parties among Palestinians, Hamas and others, who were against our participation, our commitment to the peace process. And they called on Palestinians to demonstrate against the peace process, against Madrid. Now, the majority of the Palestinians in occupied territories refused. They rejected and they demonstrated for the peace process.
With flowers, I remember.
And this is very important. This should convey a real message to the Israeli people, now that the majority of the Palestinians have opted for peace. And this is very important. It's of no use to continue to think negatively about the Palestinian intentions. At least I think, as a Palestinian, I think we have did everything that is possible to contribute.
Yeah, but this indeed is also the feeling of Israelis. One of the...
It is your feeling, don't tell me the feeling of Israelis.
No, the other way around. The official approach, and Mr. Rabin very often said that we are now trying the path of peace. Now, if it fails, despite our efforts, then we can look straight into the eyes of the fathers and mothers sending their children to fight and say we've tried everything.
Israelis and Palestinians take joint responsibility for border security between the Palestinian Autonomous Enclave and the Jewish settlers. In the field, this is the first positive sign of cooperation between the former enemies.
هو بالنسبة للدوريات المشتركة احنا بنعتبرها مشتركة لأنه هي عبارة عن هدف واحد وعمل واحد، لأنه سيارة فلسطينية وسيارة إسرائيلية. فأي خطر على الدوريات المشتركة سواء كان من جانبنا أو من جانبهم، نحن معا نرد على هذا الخطر. بكونش في صعب، شايف كيف؟ لكن إذا طبعا بتضلها الأمور كما هي الآن، في حصار بالنسبة لإيرز، في الاقتصاد مخنوق داخل قطاع غزة، حركة العمال إلى إسرائيل حركة مقيدة، في إجراءات وترتيبات أمنية على الأرض تخلق نوع من البلبلة وتخلق من عدم الارتياح بالنسبة للمواطن الفلسطيني، فبيصير هذا الوضع وضع صعب. لكن إذا أنا حققت الهدف المنشود تبعي اللي هو السلام الكامل والعادل اللي اتكلم عليه الرئيس عرفات وقال سلام الشجعان، فبكون وضع عادي ووضع سهل جدا إننا نتعامل معه.
Thinking to clear the horizon, you make a trap.
I must admit that I too feel,
frustrated.
Frustrated.
Yes.
Frustrated by the Oslo Agreement. I was very happy the day I learned that it was signed. And my heart missed a beat when I watched the handshake. Although Mr. Arafat was much more forthcoming and solid than Rabin, who had butterflies in his belly, as he admitted, and he wasn't quite sure whether he wants it or not. But for me, it was a kind of Israel accepting what for decades it tried to avoid, namely that the PLO is no more a gang of terrorists, but a national organization which represents the Palestinian people. Now, the very notion of a Palestinian people didn't exist in the Israeli vocabulary until then, you see. And so, for me, as a founding member of the Israel Council for the Israeli-Palestinian Peace, along with Mati Pele and Uri Avneri and so on, for me, it was like a dream come true in a sense. But later I grew frustrated because Israel never withdrew entirely from the Gaza Strip, and Israel can argue that it sticks to the letter of the accord. Perhaps can you tell me what to your mind is a scenario envisaged or envisioned by people like Yasser Arafat for the future? What's going, from their point of view, what's going to happen? How can they make Israel accept the notion of a Palestinian state?
I don't know. It is a problem for me. Although Arafat keeps repeating it, that we are on the road to the establishment of a Palestinian state, for me, this is talking. I don't know.
But did you feel betrayed by your leadership?
In a sense, I didn't see any reason why I was kept out of this. Being a head of a delegation for 2 years there, and certainly I gained some knowledge about the attitude of the Israelis in negotiating. So I didn't see any valid reason that this should have been kept secret for me. And the main thing that concerned me is that the agreement, in my opinion, was not the right of agreement, the kind of agreement that really is going to lead to progress towards peace.
Yes.
Basically because it evaded the cause of the impasse in the Washington negotiations, and that is the settlement activity, that is the ongoing settlement activity by Israel. And then now it is certain that after even signing the Oslo Agreement, so many settlement activity has taken place, and I think not less than 20,000 more Israeli settlers moved into the occupied territories. And that makes, a joke of the negotiating process.
Six months after the Oslo Agreement, in spite of government orders, the Jewish Agency continues to install new immigrants in the Gaza Strip. Most of them are of French origin. Josué Caldé is one of them. He's not one of the more violent, but he'd hardly arrived before he started behaving as if he'd been here forever.
Ces implantations qui sont juives et qui veulent rester, je veux dire, elles n'ont pas la possibilité d'aller ailleurs. Cette possibilité qui en théorie existe de rentrer en deçà de la ligne verte, elle existe uniquement sur la théorie. Sur la pratique, ça se résume par une population qui a accru ces dernières années et qui laisse très peu de place à l'intérieur de cette même ligne verte à réimplanter à nouveau. On a une industrie, une économie qui continue à grandir, on a besoin de place, et c'est pas qu'on pousse les voisins, c'est la réalité sur le fait. On a besoin de tout ça pour vivre, et je veux dire, il est dommage que le peuple palestinien ne comprenne pas qu'ici il a la possibilité de faire ça aussi, en accord avec le peuple israélien. Je veux dire, ce qu'il ne cherche qu'à faire, c'est qu'à pousser les gens à l'extérieur. À l'extérieur de quoi? C'est-à-dire pousser les gens à la mer. Un des commandements du peuple juif est de faire pousser, de faire fleurir, de faire grandir quelque chose sur la terre. Et ça, c'est une grande mitzvah, ce qu'on appelle. Un commandement qu'on ne peut pas faire ailleurs que sur la terre d'Israël.
They claim to serve God's will, but use God for their own ends.
Now, there is indeed a wave of growing violence, whatever the justifications, under or in the context of the growing Islam, or growing fundamentalist Islam. So, what do you think are the prospects in that respect?
Well, I think the prospects, it's difficult to predict things clearly for the future, but it's obvious that the lack of peace, the absence of peace, the lack of credibility of the ongoing peace and negotiating process certainly would give way for radicalism, whether it is Islamic fundamentalism or other kinds of radicalism. And so this is the imperative.
And by the way, Jewish radicalism as well.
Yes, the imperative is to, in every way, make the peace process more credible.
Yes, but you see, on the ideological level, the leaders of the Islamic movement in the occupied territories and even outside the occupied territories in neighboring Arab states say that from their point of view, the entire land of Palestine, that is from the Mediterranean Sea to the Jordan River, is an Islamic endowment, waqf.
Yes.
And if now, according to the Israeli mind, if the Palestinian Authority is unable to control those movements, and if very violent acts, suicidal acts are taking place, then why should we believe that it will stop along the lines of the Gaza Strip and the West Bank?
When you analyze the situation, really, when you think of it in depth, you will know that Israel is partly responsible for this because of its intransigent position, because Israel refuses to give what is needed for peace. These acts are only possible in the absence of peace. First of all, in principle, I am against any acts that do away with innocent lives, and in general, I am against these sort of acts. Now, always in a political movement, in a liberation struggle, there is no avoidance of such movement.
Yes.
And you told me that your children are asking this question. I must